You make a valid point if we were to play by the rules. Now, I'm sure the best chance of us playing by the rules is obviously once Donald Trump comes back. It would be nice to believe that everybody gets all their money back that they've been paying into the usury, as you call it, okay, for eons, and the taxation plus interest plus penalties, just like they would do to us if we were to tax evade, right? They would hit you with penalties and interest on top of interest and penalties on top of penalties, and you never. It's like you owe money to the mafia, you'll never pay it back, right? So the bottom line becomes, yes, if that was to happen, and even for a guy like me who's extremely optimistic, but we're being conditioned or brainwashed to believe that the system is never going to allow us to really thrive, is, even though I would love to believe that that can become a reality, I have a hard time manifesting that, if you will.
Well, then that's not what I said. Let me punctuate it.
Sure.
I'm kind of in the middle here. Okay. I'm saying let's put aside the fact that there are those who say we're going to get remuneration, we're going to get money given back to us because of the system wasn't fair. I'm saying let's look at the 34-year period called the American economic system, where we in 34 years surpassed England that had a 300-year head start on us. I'm saying if we get out of the fiat currency system, we get control of the supply chain, and we innovate, because what's going to happen here?
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Unified TV will take over Netflix. We're bringing in the next genre of movie producers and storytellers and actors and actresses. And we're telling the story of how the world is going to be on earth as it is in heaven. Jassara Nasara is coming. Don't make no mistake about it. Gold and silver, right down below. Promo code Mel Carmine. Make sure you use the promo code. Almost $8 billion in sales. We're direct to like a bunch of mints. We are the ones that can get you the gold and silver directly to your door, okay, at the cheapest price. Don't even waste your time looking for a cheaper price. It doesn't exist. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. Our Patriots are literally waiting for you in the room. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Well, folks, we got Larry Ballard back. You better get used to him, because he's going to be like a permanent fixture here at the Mel Carmine Show, I can assure you. Anyway, I want to make a quick announcement. The Quantum Summit 1776.com is going really, really well. The early bird tickets are completely sold out in the first 36 hours, and we're continuously selling more tickets. We believe that the event is going to be completely sold out here within 10, 12, 15 days or so. And when that happens, if it happens that fast, we have a huge announcement that you guys are going to absolutely love. Now, God forbid the XRP hits, $20, $30, because there's going to be some major event that's going to happen, I believe, between the 8th and the 9th. I'm being guided by the Lord as well. And I know for a fact that there is something of major significance. Otherwise, I would not be choosing those dates. Hence the reason why he led me to the chair, and I got the biggest chair in podcasting. Larry, welcome to the show, brother. By the way, guys, also, we have a few speakers that are a little bit low on the cash. So if you can hit the donate button, donate $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever you can afford, please. Some of these people got hit hard by that C thing, and the New World Order, and we do need them on stage because they are a very, very important voice. So we really depend on you guys to hit the donate button and donate as much as you can. We want to have everybody that's in our roster, on our speaker roster at Quantum Summit 1776, directly on stage, so that we can get the message out to the world. Something of major significance is getting ready to happen, and we're going to have a part 2 and a part 3 to the Quantum Summit in Cape Canaveral. Larry, welcome to the call, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're going to be talking about China and Iran and Israel and all the convergence of the perfect storm today. I believe he's going to, put some light on the geopolitical sphere of what's happening worldwide, and ties right into the quantum financial system, because there is a major Mexican standoff where they're using nuclear weapons as a threat to make sure you and I don't get rich, believe it or not. And they're going to literally exhaust every drop of blood. And this is a fight. And this is a fight that can really, as far as I'm concerned, even if Trump comes back, I still think that before this entire thing really manifests, I think it could take, I don't know, maybe another year or two. What do you think, Larry? You think I'm maybe being overly pessimistic?
I think things are reaching ahead right now. I follow Sun Tzu. I would say, in terms of Sun Tzu's message, we're on death ground, the final battle. This is the push to see who's going to win this race to the reset. Is it going to be the bad guys, and are we going to be locked down indefinitely and basically lead ourselves into a total dictatorship? Or is there going to be 100% Esther type reversal, and we're going to get freedom, and we're going to have financial stability, and every nation in the world is going to have relative parity on the financial plane, which takes away the excuse for war, and we have a period of harvest of souls and a period of peace and prosperity. That's what I think is coming. However, to get to that point, we are going to have to go through some very shaky times, just like in Israel, just like when they were coming out of Egypt, and they had to have what? All those plagues. So they're going to release everything against us, because right now, the forces that are aligned against us, the global financial elite, realize that they're actually losing this war. And so what they used to do is push us. When we woke up and resisted, they'd back off, and then they'd wait, and then they'd push us. And now it's full throttle. They're going to throw everything they have at us. So what I want to do is I want to be the anti-newscaster. So if you turn your TV on the last few days, let me give you an idea of what you've seen, and then I'll show you what you missed. So what you've seen, oh, there was a bridge, and it got hit, and it fell down, and it blocked a harbor, and that's an issue. And then there were 26 barges that broke loose, and then there were missiles shot over from Iran, and now we've got protests on the bridges and protests at the airports, and we've got pandemonium in the cities. Well, what does any of that mean? What does it mean? How can you take that and use that to do something demonstrative in your life, to plan for what's coming, to know what this is all about? You can't. The only way you can understand geopolitical events is if you understand the big picture going back years. And so before I go too far into this, I'll turn it back to you, Mel. But I'm going to go back, I think, and run through 4 of our past presidents and run through several of the events that we've had over the last, since 9/11, and show you that they were all preparatory for what's happening right now. If we understand that, then we understand just exactly how bad what is coming is and how great what will be when we get through it. So let me turn it over to you for a second, and then we'll dive into details.
Sure. I was under the impression, Larry, that this whole thing, this fight was going to end with Israel. So in a way, I'm like, okay, you got the attack coming in from Iran with Israel. Okay, this is the final battle. You got Hamas fighting Israel. This is the final battle. You're saying that there's still another final battle to go, and it might be China, because they're losing by a lot, okay? And their whole entire infrastructure is a house of cards, and it's about to implode. From a financial standpoint, real estate standpoint, they are 10 times worse than the United States. And people don't realize that. And everybody's giving them a lot of credit, saying they're going to be the next superpower. And I really cringe when I hear that, because I don't see that. I see them falling faster and harder than the United States of America. And I don't know if you're on the same page when it comes to that.
Absolutely. So let me understand one thing you said. So you're saying you think this war over there is kind of the end battle. So are you suggesting this is going to turn into World War III?
I don't think it's going to turn into World War III, but I think they're going to turn it into an event where they're going to make everybody believe that the missiles could be airborne anytime, any second, and people are going to come into a Jesus moment. I think people are going to get on their knees because they're going to realize that this is a lot more severe than it is. But I don't think they're going to ultimately pull the trigger on the missiles, because even the bad guys know that they may as well put their heads between their legs and kiss their butts goodbye, because it's over for everybody. There's no winners, there's no losers once that happens, correct?
Yes, and biblically, we're not in that portion of the book of Revelation. We're basically in the book of Esther, the book of reversals, where we're basically where the financial elite lose their grip. The power is reversed and comes back to the people. We get our republic back. But I want to start off with what these people's end goal is. So this is coming from the Council on Foreign Relations Handbook. It says the Council on Foreign Relations, which is the CFR, and the Trilateral Commission, which is known as the TC, are committed to ending U.S. sovereignty and birthing the one world government. What they want to do, coming out of the UN, the stated purpose, is to end all sovereign nations, and to create 10 servile, meaning that they're subjected countries, 10 servile trading blocks, which would be the mark of the beast. And that's what they want. They're not going to get that. So let's go back to where you were starting with. Let's analyze what's actually happening with Iran right now. So basically, there was an event where Israel launched some stuff against them, and now they retaliated with some 300 missiles. And God says, no. You're not going to take out my Israel. You're not going to take out my United States. I don't care what it looks like. 300 missiles, 99% of them were knocked down, right? But then what did they say? Folks, we're done. It's over. So let's analyze that. Who in the world starts a war and then says it's over and expects that it is over, right? There'll be some kind of retaliation. But here's what I want to say to you. Take it for what you want. You can't fight a war if you don't have munitions. You can't fight a war if you don't have money. And wars are orchestrated over years of time. So I want to walk you through some scenarios that show you since 9/11, we have been preparing for this final reset. So I'm going to go all the way back to 9/11, and I'm going to come all the way forward to where we are right now, if that's okay.
Sure.
So
absolutely.
What was 9/11 about? 9/11 was to absolutely drive America into debt. You were talking about China going into debt. So what happened? The outcome of that was that we went into an immediate war. And what did Bush say? The day after the towers came down, we are going to have a generational war lasting 30 years or more. Then what did that do? That set the trap for not only spending trillions of dollars on the war, but we had already lost one of the engines of the economy, which was what? Manufacturing had been sent over to China. Now we lost the stock market. All we have left is the real estate market. That's the perfect way to create a financial collapse, because they can push all of their efforts towards creating a bubble in the stock market. And how did they do it? They came in and they said, we're going to create equity in the market because of redlining. And so Obama sued, and what they said is, now, folks, to be fair, we're going to let you buy a house with no money down, no income verification. That was the basis for the subprime loans. And then here's the trigger. What they did is, if I'm a regular conventional buyer, I put 20% down, I get a fixed rate 20%, fixed rate 30-year mortgage. But when you don't have any money down, you get a 3-year ARM. And what they knew was that 3 years out, all of those huge numbers of caustic mortgages were going to come due, and the people wouldn't have the money to pay the higher interest rates, and they would collapse the market. So let's take that whole series and take it to the end. You know what it did? It drove America. It made us spend over that period of time, $16.8 trillion. So our airports were atrophying, our infrastructure was atrophying, our military was without the adequate supplies that it needed, while China was building gleaming new cities and high-speed rails and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was actually the first major step towards taking us to where we are today and in the last 24 hours. So where do we go from there? I'm going to jump around, but it's all going to make sense. They're laying the groundwork for this massive attack and for getting their final victory, getting their reset. So let's jump over to Iraq. And we left Iraq. And remember, you got to have money and you got to have munitions. Did we leave orderly? No, we left in absolute chaos under Biden, leaving billions of dollars of munitions. And we don't know where it went. We don't know where it went. And I'm going to jump around here a bit, but
Sure.
You got to have money and you got to have munitions. So what did Obama do when he was in? Obama facilitated what? The Iranian nuclear deal. What else did he do? He took sanctions off. What else did he do? He sent them billions of dollars and pallets of money in an airplane, several airplanes, so that what? They had money. If you don't have money, you don't have a war. So when Trump was in, Iran was quiet. Why? Because oil prices were down. That's the principal revenue stream. Nobody was funneling money to them. So basically, they didn't have money to funnel into their terrorist activities. And so what we see now is we've got an administration, going to jump forward to Biden, who's doing exactly what the opposite of what Trump did. So Trump kept the war efforts flat. He's the only president in modern times that didn't take us into a war. So it was a relative period of peace. And what did he do? He went after China and he posed tariffs on them. And he got us out of intentionally losing trade deals. He drilled and opened up our oil, and he gave us access to our natural resources, our manufacturing, and our trade. And our stock market went from 10,000 to 30,000, and prosperity went like that. Now, let's just look and see if this is maybe planned. What did Biden do? He said, we're stopping drilling. We're not going to drill in Pergo Base. We're not going to open the pipelines up. And basically, he shut down the economy so that basically everything was flowing back in the direction of China again, and everything reversed. And so what happened let's go back even a little further, because you have to really connect a lot of dots. And it just seems like sometimes they don't fit together. So I'm going to jump to Obama. And when Obama came in, he said, what? We're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America. Well, most people didn't know what that meant. But if you know that he was a student of Saul Alinsky, and Saul Alinsky was a radical, and he taught Rules for Radicals, which was a process whereby you bankrupt a nation by driving it into debt. So what happened under Obama's administration? He amassed more debt than the 43 presidents who preceded him combined. So this is all an effort to drive America into debt, while at the same time funding our enemies. So basically what I'm saying is that our government, you cannot look at geopolitical events by looking at America or China or Russia or Iran. They have all been co-opted. Yeah. All of those governments are servile governments. They're controlled by the global financial elite. So basically, if you look at it that way, I won't use the word our government, but I will say the shadow government of the United States has prepared for the decline economically of the United States, the rise of China, and now is preparing for this war because they have provided the funding so that this war can happen. Now let's come forward. I think I should stop and let you interject.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You know, I'm gonna interject with a little bit of a joke. You know, add some humor to the show a little bit. You know, Soleimani, right? Mm-hmm. He called Trump and he said, "This is a joke." Obviously, he said, "Hey, are you going to do the same thing that Obama did? You know, send us a few pallets of billions of dollars." He said, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "Do me a favor." He goes, "Wait for me at the airport." Okay. Yeah, that's a joke.
Well, it's funny, but it's not funny what's going on. I mean, It's absolutely critical. So people, here's what I guess I'm trying to say. God told me when I had my near-death experience in 68, you've got to become a Bible scholar. You've got to become an historian. You've got to read all kinds of different subject matter, because if you can't tie the pieces together over long periods of history, events, critical tipping points are happening right now today, and people don't see it. There's people out there saying, oh, this is going to be World War III. Well, let me tell you what I think, and it's only my opinion. I don't think Israel is the ultimate target. And when they say we fired 300 missiles, but now we're done, the funding to do that came from the global financial elite out of the American administration. If you're in Iran, I want you to be the head of Iran right now. Are you going to launch a war against Israel, knowing that all kinds of other nations will align with them, and knowing that you are absolutely guaranteeing your utter, complete annihilation? That's what happens if this thing goes to complete war. So what I believe we're seeing is they sent them money. They said, you lob your missiles over here, you create a distraction, you create all this fear, and then we'll give a minimal retaliation back. This is no different than the Ukraine war. So let's jump to that. I want you to see all of these different things and how they tie together. So what was the fear mongering when they have the Ukraine war? Oh my God, it's another Hitler. He's going to come in and go from nation to nation and nation. Ukraine's the first one. Well, let me tell you, folks, that didn't happen, did it? Well, let me tell you what was really behind that war, and you'll see it. It's all about creating fear, pandemonium, chaos, and driving America into debt. So we were sending tons of money over there at a time when we didn't have the money to spend. And you know what? There's a parallel. That parallel as to why that war was actually started goes all the way back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. When they were going to put missiles in Cuba 90 miles from our border, what was happening is Putin was saying for over 2 years, you can't let Ukraine join NATO. The minute you do that, they're going to put missiles on my border, and those missiles will be 5 minutes from Moscow. I cannot let that happen. So they kept pushing to let them in, and he reached his Cuban Missile Crisis moment, and he had to attack. But he hasn't gone out of that border, has he? He hasn't gone out of that border. And you know what? That's even biblical. You know why? You know what Russia's called in the Bible? The bear, right?
Right.
But you know what else they're called? The sleeping bear. You know why? Because a bear comes out of hibernation, ravenous and hungry, and then he goes back to sleep in the winter, right?
Sure.
So this is where Russia, the first time they've woken up since World War II, and they're going into Ukraine to do business, to mop up things. There's a lot more to what's happening in Ukraine than we think. It was a just war. We always think simplistically, the nation that attacked was the aggressor. Well, not necessarily. How did we get into World War II? We goaded Japan into attacking us. FDR had what they call pop-ups, where we take our ships into the war zone, hoping that some kind of an altercation would occur. We cut off their steel, we cut off their oil. He had a 10-point plan to force Japan to attack us. So who was the aggressor? Japan. But who propagated it? Us. So in Ukraine, who was the aggressor? Putin. But who propagated it? The UN, the United States, the global elite. So we look at these wars from the simplistic viewpoint of what the bobbleheads tell us. It was Putin. He's a monster. He's horrible. He's gonna go across and start World War III. No, folks, that isn't what happened, and that was never what happened. And this war we're seeing in the last few days is not going to turn into World War III. But here's what it's about. It's about the final push to have their global reset. And they have one principal enemy, and greater than Israel, it is one Donald J. Trump and one United States of America. They have to take out the little Satan, as they call him, and the big Satan. I see you got your finger up.
Yeah.
Say something.
Central bank digital currency, the testing ground for this obviously is China, okay? Communist China, and they have the social credit score. It's failing miserably. people, when they understand what this is, and when we have people like yourself and myself educating people about peer-to-peer payments, people are going to realize that they are their own banks, and they're going to reject this entire notion of having a central bank digital currency. Now, I talked to Black Swan yesterday, Versan, who's coming down to our event a little early. And by the way, Rob Cunningham, not to get off track, Rob Cunningham is now on the roster of speakers. He's coming down. He changed his vacation plans. But he said, Black Swan said yesterday something that was very interesting to me. He said, Mel, for a little while, we're going to have not the haves and the have-nots, but we're going to get out of poverty. This Nasara Jassara is going to get everybody out of poverty, but we're going to have the middle class is still going to be, I'm sort of like, I don't know, I wouldn't call them exactly a slave class because we're getting out of that. But the middle class who doesn't have the XRP, or they're not positioned in the investments that are going to, create the generational wealth, they're going to be working for us in essence. And there's going to be some kind of basic income, universal basic income, but it's not going to be enough to where they can thrive. They're going to be comfortable, but they're not going to be poor. So you're still going to have the haves and the have-nots. And I don't know if I buy that notion entirely, to be quite honest with you. But because, if you don't have the XRP or the XLM or the XDC, you're not able to, make payments peer-to-peer and bypass, for example, the central bank digital currency if it was to exist for a little while, right? So how are those people going? I think that the wild card here, if I may, is going to be Donald Trump, because he has advocaatly told the world point blank, the central bank digital currency, when I come back, is not going to see the light of day. I think he is the ultimate, joker card, wild card, that the system is. That's why they're fighting him. That's why he's paying all these fines for these, supposedly crimes that he's committed, right? That I think are bogus. I think we could hit a little bit on that as well.
Well, it looks like you've directed me in another direction,
Yes.
but that's okay. We'll go in that direction. I'll
Yes.
see if I can tie that up. So let's look all the way back to 2019. See, God gives me this memory. Once I hear it, I don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And what was Trump saying back in 2019? He's talking to China, who you just mentioned. He's talking to several nations all over the world. He went on a world tour in 2016, and he's basically saying, folks, we can't have this haves and have-nots anymore. He says we can't have these billionaires and trillionaires controlling us. We have to have relative economic parity. And guess what that requires? The death, the absolute death of the fiat currency system. We have to go to a system that's based on God's economy, which is commodities. So let's dissect that. Why would that be? Because when we're in a fiat currency system, they can inflate the money, they can deflate the money, they can cause financial collapses, they can indebt us with credit cards where we lose our jobs, and then we live off our credit cards and we're in debt forever. So that system is gone if you go to a system that's based on commodities, because commodities can't be manipulated. The other half of that equation of what runs the global economy is what? The global supply chain. If you can create shortages and demand shortages, what's the law of supply and demand say? Prices go up. So they want to keep us perpetually in a situation where our incomes go up marginally, but inflation goes up more than our income goes up. And basically they keep us trapped. And then if we get any money, they cause a financial collapse. And they manipulate, they've got illegal laws where they take our money through what? An illegal federal income tax, through illegal property taxes, through all kinds of illegal systems. So now to go to what you're saying, I'm going to take you back all the way to the foundation of America, and I'm going to walk you through what God has shown us. And then I want you to come back in and comment more in terms of current times. When America, this is really the inception of Nasara. It all started with America. When America came over here, we wanted to get out of the slavery system of the central banking system of England. So what we did is we set up a country that was, first of all, unique. It was a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And they wanted what? Several things. They wanted to not be under the financial slavery of the central bank. So they didn't have the ability to have England print money and charge them interest. So what did we have? We had a simple sales tax. That's it. The whole country was running a sales tax. You're an expert in this field. What are they saying is going to happen when the SAR comes in? A sales
Taxes are
tax.
going to go away.
What do they say is going to go away? The
Taxes,
federal
income tax,
tax.
yeah, income tax, property tax, capital gains tax, all kind. The only tax you're going to pay is on things that you absolutely need. Things that are a want are going to be taxable up to about 17%, and things that are a need, like food, medicine, shelter, shoes, whatever, that is not going to be taxed. Now, as you were talking about earlier, when Trump was traveling around the country, you're talking about the documentary called The Great Awakening by the Bonfire guy, which has got 466,000 hits. Yeah. And I've put that video out many, 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 many times. As far as I'm concerned, look, we need an Asara flat tax. We need a situation where a nation can no longer go into war. We need real freedom. That's what people want. All right. Especially the young people in Iran. I mean, who's throwing the drones over there in Israel? It's the people who are bent on enslaving the entire planet. These people are psychopaths, right? It's not the young people. The young people want freedom. I know some people that are Iranian happen to be very good friends of mine. They're nice people. They're hardworking people. They're smart people. They're good business people. They don't want wars, endless wars, so some people can make money off of the blood of our children. It's ridiculous. So this has got to stop. This whole taxation system has to go away because it's an unfair system, and it's an illegal one at that, because we know that the IRS is registered in Puerto Rico.
All right. One other piece of enslavement that you didn't mention. The Bible says usury is not to be allowed. So we used to have anti-usury laws. All but 6 states had usury laws. So they got around them. The global elite financial bankers got around them by incorporating in those states. And then they did something even more heinous. They created compound interest on mortgages and on credit cards. So if you loan me $1,000 on a fair and equitable system, let's say it's 7%, I owe you $700 and we're good. No, the way the slavery system that they have created works is you pay a minimum, say $40. All right. And what's left, then you pay the full 7% on that next month, and the balance you pay it on the next month. So here's what happens. I was in real estate for 12 years. Let's take both markets separately. If you're in real estate, it takes you 26 years to pay off half of your mortgage. Half of that mortgage is paid off in the last 4 years. And they know that the average American moves at least 7 times in his lifetime. So they know most of us retire with this huge mortgage still on us. But even more than that, because of the way that system is run with compound interest, you pay 2.5 times. So if you buy a $500,000 house, before you pay that mortgage off, that house is going to cost you $1.5 million. No, $2 million. So basically, now I want to go back to your comment about the middle class still being kind of in economic slavery. No, I want to go back to one more stopping point before we get there. And that was a 34-year period in American history immediately following the Civil War, when America did the impossible. America went up against England, that had a 300-year head start and was undisputedly the world's economic superpower at the time, the nation the sun never set on. And in 34 years, they became, at the 100th year centennial in 1876, the youngest nation in the world, became the world's wealthiest nation. Here's what we did. We invented the transcontinental railroad to get access to our resources. We invented the Industrial Revolution. Well, how did we do it? Because we forced Americans to not be able to buy from Britain, because we put a 50% tax on Britain. So we innovated ourselves into the Industrial Revolution. Then we shared the railroad technology, the assembly line, all of the inventions that came out of the Industrial Revolution with the entire world. So we benefited. Our economic standard went up. and the economic standard of every nation who bought our technology went up, and the world was really headed towards a period of peace. So they had to stop that. That's another story. That's why they caused World
Yeah.
War One. But
And who
now
owned
let's
the
interject.
railways? And who owned the
Pardon me?
railways? Who created the railways for commerce?
The railroads, well, they were built by tycoons, but the point was
Carnegie, I
they
think,
were,
right?
yeah, well, he was one of them, yes.
Yeah.
But the point was what they were doing was they were going to have a railway system across Russia.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to connect and come across the Bering Strait. Now we're in North America coming down. So we already have an east-west railroad. Now we got a north-south railroad. McKinley was negotiating for a railroad down through Mexico into South America. They were going to bring a railroad across at Gibraltar. So what would have happened is every continent in the world, except Australia, which is basically an island, was going to be able to trade by rail, breaking the financial control of the global superpower of the British Empire. That's why they had to cause World War One to end all that rail system. So these people are heinous. They kill millions and hundreds of millions of people, and it's nothing but a decimal point to them. So now back to your comment about the middle class. So let's dissect this just a little bit more.
Sure.
So there are those who say that there will be some kind of money coming back to us from the money that's been stolen. But let's put that aside and say maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But let's just look at the system that we saw. We came from a system of absolute slavery where we have our money printed by a global elite and we pay them interest and we're now debt slaves. Then we went to a 34-year period where we didn't have that and we had soaring economic freedom. So during that period, what happened? It took us into what? A period where everybody in America and everybody in the world was having financial prosperity. So if we go into this period that you're talking about, and these people have a currency that's stable, they don't have all of this tax burden on them, we don't have shortages because the global supply chain has been deglobalized, so they can't manipulate the cost of goods because there's not shortages that are being created. We don't have fiat currency that can be inflated. So we have a stable state economy, and we have gotten out from all of that debt burden. And so all classes are going to benefit, the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class. And then there's one more piece to it after you said what you're going to say.
You make a valid point if we were to play by the rules. Now, I'm sure the best chance of us playing by the rules is obviously once Donald Trump comes back. It would be nice to believe that everybody gets all their money back that they've been paying into the usury, as you call it, okay, for eons, and the taxation plus interest plus penalties, just like they would do to us if we were to tax evade, right? They would hit you with penalties and interest on top of interest and penalties on top of penalties, and you never. It's like you owe money to the mafia, you'll never pay it back, right? So the bottom line becomes, yes, if that was to happen, and even for a guy like me who's extremely optimistic, but we're being conditioned or brainwashed to believe that the system is never going to allow us to really thrive, is, even though I would love to believe that that can become a reality, I have a hard time manifesting that, if you will.
Well, then that's not what I said. Let me punctuate it.
Sure.
I'm kind of in the middle here. Okay. I'm saying let's put aside the fact that there are those who say we're going to get remuneration, we're going to get money given back to us because of the system wasn't fair. I'm saying let's look at the 34-year period called the American economic system, where we in 34 years surpassed England that had a 300-year head start on us. I'm saying if we get out of the fiat currency system, we get control of the supply chain, and we innovate, because what's going to happen here, there are multitudes of patents that have been suppressed. So if we win this reset battle, we're going to have the ability to innovate, just like we did in the Industrial Revolution. Who innovated in the Industrial Revolution? America. Who innovated the computer? America. Who innovated the information age? America. who is best positioned to innovate in the future? Well, let's stop right there and I'll tell you it's America. But first, I want to finish this thought. So now, if we have that system, we're not worrying about whether they're going to pay us huge amounts of money in reparations. We're all living in a system where our income is not getting eaten. We can use it, and our income is not always being surpassed by inflation. So everybody benefits. But now let's go back to what you said about the XRP, the gold, the silver. What? God promised us what? A harvest of souls. To who? Not everybody. To his who? His righteous. To those that are his remnant. And why did he do that? And what is it? So basically, right now, how the global elite control us is because they control the money. And what they do with that money is they buy the spheres of influence. They buy they own the banks, they own the corporations, they own the politicians, they own the schools, they own the media, they own the military industrial complex, and they use it all as a weapon against us. So if this thing comes down and the reset falls in our favor, all of that changes because now we buy the Disneys, we buy the CNNs, we buy the Foxes, we buy the pharmaceutical companies. So now we've got a group of people in the middle who are functioning somewhat like the global elite function. They owe the money, they own the money so they can control the spheres of influence, but they're controlled by godly people who are using that to better society. So now everybody is lifted up and has a better standard of living. And the principal cause of war is disparity between the level of economic stability between nations and between peoples. So now we can bring the people together, we can end the division, we can have peace, and we can have harmony, and everything changes. And we don't have to depend on some massive influx of money because we feel we need reparations. I mean, the blacks right now, they want reparations for slavery. Well, that's an unequitable system. None of us were alive back in that time. And so I just take that reparations idea and push it aside and say, we will still have a massive, massive improvement. And America, now I want to go back to why America is going to be the principal winner out of all of this. In my second book that's coming out in just a few weeks, I do an exhaustive analysis. What's going to happen to China? What's going to happen to Iran? What's going to happen to all these nations around the world? And what's going to happen to America? So let's break them down. So here's the essential thing. If you're going to be the leader coming out of this, you've got to be able to control a substantial amount of what? Of the natural resources. Also the manufacturing, also the trade, and also the technology. So let's see. Now, you can't miss one or two of those. You got to have a check mark in every column. Let's see if there's another nation in the world that can put a check mark in all four of those boxes. I contend there's not. Let's go to Russia. They've got money, and they're doing pretty well right now because oil prices are up, and their central income is what? Oil. But they don't have the technology. They're not a technological leader. Plus, they're a communist nation. Let's take China, the one that wants to be the leader of the world. The real estate markets all but collapsed. Money stopped rolling into the stock market. The stock market's at a 30% decline, and global factories are pulling out. Foxconn, that has 100,000 employees, that's the biggest factory in the world, is pulling out and going to 5 different countries. That means we're going from globalization to deglobalization, from having our prices controlled to having them not be able to control. So what the Bible tells me now, looking in the Bible, is China's not in the Bible in the book of Revelation. China is going to collapse, never to come back, just like Egypt collapsed and never came back. So what's the dynamic there? The people are going to rise up. In the midst of all of this, what has kept stability in China was a really foolish thing that China did. They killed thousands of young students in Tiananmen Square. And they were on the brink of an absolute takeover from the people. And they said, wait a minute, if you'll agree to live under communism, we'll agree that you will have a better standard of living and you'll have full employment. So there's something that happened in China that very few people saw. They didn't connect the dots. No matter what happened in the economy of China, they just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. Why? Because every time they had a turn down, what did they do? They built another massive infrastructure progress. They built their great big huge high-speed rail system that loses millions of dollars a day. They build dams. They build what? Ghost cities that are now, some of them 70 years old and being torn down. Why did they do that? Because they knew if they couldn't make the people financially stable, that under the oppression of communism, they would revolt. So what's happening now? There is increasing tension within China for the people to revolt. China's going to fall. The people are going to make China fall. And then around them, they have nothing but enemies. So what do they got? They got India. India is an up-and-coming nation. So China has what they call the string of pearls, diamonds, pearls, which is a series of naval bases that protect their trade routes. What did India do? Yeah. Tit for tat. They've got the string of diamonds, so that there's basically tension in that Indian Ocean. And then every nation around them sees them as a hostile force and as a line either is in direct alliance with the United States or as an opposition to them, like India. So they're surrounded by enemies and they're going to have internal chaos. China's not going to come back. China is not the one we have to be looking at. However, it's the one we have to fear right now. And I'll tell you why about that in a second. Then let's go over to Iran. Iran's
let me answer you on China, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think, first of all, China was made in America. We made China what they are. Okay,
absolutely,
that's a fact. Okay,
yes,
and the reality is, as we watch this collapse of the global structure, China, who has been bent on being communism, will send a message to the world, a ripple effect, that communism doesn't work. Okay. The biggest obstacle we have here, and I think you'll agree, is the normies. The normies would love to drive the extension of the Model T Ford for the next 500 years. They're okay with being confined to the rock. I have a problem with that. I want to graduate to free energy technology. I want to be able to have anti-gravitic travel. I want to be able to live on my spacecraft, whatever it is, whether I want to travel here on Earth domestically, or if I want to travel in the cosmos, I have my little apartment on board where I don't have to rent an Airbnb and all that stuff. They're so content and they're so confined to this thing that feels so comfortable to them that they never want to graduate. You understand? And this is the biggest struggle we're having. This is one of the other Mexican standoffs. So we got to get to that 80-20 where, hey, if you're not willing to come along with us, we're going without you. And we're almost there, but we're not exactly there yet.
Well, they're brainwashed. So I'm going to take another diversion based on what you said. Let's go back to your XRP and basically 2019 and what Trump said. Trump said, we cannot have a fiat system like we have. He's basically telling us then that BRICS was going to be birthed. That we were going to a commodity-based system.
Monetary level playing field. He said that a million times.
Exactly. So that we can create a level playing field, which is what we did in that 34-year period when the American economic system caused America to blossom. So that's one aspect of what you're saying. And the other is that we have the technological edge. Right now, we've done something that most people don't know. We entered into an agreement with, I think it was Finland, and they have an absolutely unbelievable technological breakthrough in semiconductors. The size of the semiconductors determines the power of the semiconductor. It is a semiconductor the size of a nanite. And what does that have to do? Why is that important? Because they're not going to sell that to China. That agreement's been reached. And why is that important? Because that is what drives AI. And AI is what will drive all of the revolutionary inventions that we're going to see. Because with AI, you can engineer things far faster and more efficiently than we can with human beings. So America's in the driver's seat. So now we've gone with Iran back there. They've got the same kind of tensions that China has. So there's going to be an internal upheaval. We just got to wait till things get bad enough over there, and it's going to collapse. But they basically get their money from oil again. They don't have technology. They don't have trade. So they can't step up and go check those boxes. Let's go to South America. Brazil, the biggest nation over there, only has 3% of the global trade of the world. And they're having financial difficulties. So who have I left? Europe. So Europe is the one we have to be afraid of because Europe in the Bible is the Holy Roman Empire. It is the combination of the one world Catholic Church and the one world global government, and it contains the beast that we see in the book of Revelation. It contains England, the nation that more so than any other nation has enslaved the world, and it is called their mouthpiece. It contains Germany, the Third Reich, which graduated to being the Fourth Reich when the mortal wound was healed when the wall came down in 1979 or 89, and Pope Paul II, a communist Pope Gorbachev, and Bush Sr. got together 20 days after that wall came down, when the mortal wound had been healed, and said, we are announcing the birth of the new world order. So we've got to look to Germany, we got to look to Russia, we got to look to England, we've got to look to the entire European Union as the power that we have to look at as we move into the tribulation period. And who are we most aligned with? The G7. Because we're controlled by the global financial elite, are in bed with the very enemy that is our mortal enemy. That's what I'm trying to wake people up to. We don't have to fear China. Here's what's going to happen with China. China has got a decision to make in the very short run. Their system is imploding rapidly. If they wait until it implodes, they're done. Just what I predicted is going to happen. They're never going to come back. They've lost their one chance at the brass ring of being the global leader of the world. So I believe what's happening now, to kind of wrap all this together and make it make sense. First, we got what's going on over in Iran attacking Israel, little Satan. But that's now building towards what they're going to do here. So that's why the bridge got knocked down. That's why the port is closed. That's why the barges break loose. That's why we can't manufacture goods. That's why our dollar is imploding. That's why the economy is collapsing, because they want to take us down. The principal thing they want to accomplish is a lockdown. They want to be able to take us back into what they did with COVID, which utterly, completely financially strapped us and broke us and broke our will. And they're hoping that they can have a series of assaults. So let's look at how they prepared. We looked at how they prepared for the assault against Israel. Now let's look at how they're preparing for the assault against us. We're financially strapped. We're struggling. We're divided. There's angst. We've got people protesting right now today, closing borders and closing down highways and airports. So what have they done? They've let approximately, I mean, the numbers vary, but I've heard basically 10 million people into our country in the last few years from every nation in the world, military age men that are sleepers. So what they're hoping to do is have 9/11 on steroids, 1929 on steroids, COVID on steroids. They're going to have possibly a virus release. They're going to have attacks from these men that are going to be the sleeper cells that are going to wake up. They're going to have cyber attacks. This is the final battle. They're going to unleash everything they have in order to try to create so much chaos that we will submit. And that so Donald Trump will not be elected. We will not have an election, but he'll come back. Don't wait. God has got it all planned, all in the Bible. Donald Trump is going to come back. And what's he going to do when he comes back? The same thing he did when he came in. He's going to drill, give us our oil, our steel, our manufacturing. He'll put tariffs back on China, and he's already negotiated fair trading deals, and he's already positioned us to basically be the innovators of technology. Check. The only nation in the world that can check all those boxes. We'll bring the people together. America will come back stronger than ever. We are the anointed nation of God, along with Israel. We are the nation that is in covenant with God. And why are we in covenant with God? Because I think it was 1620, when the first ship landed, which was a trading party, they cut the mast off their ship, made a cross, and dedicated America to God. And when the Pilgrims came here, before they even got off the ship, they wrote the Mayflower Compact. And when we won this Revolutionary War, or thought we won it, the first day that Washington was president, he went to St. Paul Cathedral and prayed for 3 hours, anointing this nation and dedicating it to God. We have been that shining light on the hill that has given more hope and more freedom to the world than any other nation. God has made us his steward. He will use us to restore peace and prosperity to the world. And we were the ones that basically evangelized to the world. He is going to use America to do what? To kill the lukewarm church, to bring signs, wonders, and miracles out like we've never seen before. And the fire of revival will break out across America and across the entire world. We win, they lose, because here's what they're doing. Their strategy has been altered. I want to give 2 more points, and then I'll kind of wrap it up and turn it back to you. So you were talking about China and so forth. I want to show you their big picture. So the big picture, people have a hard time understanding that you could take a 180-degree change in position and it can be good for you. So basically, there's been 380-degree turns in the history of the world in terms of economy. You got England, they're controlling the world, they're controlling trade, they're controlling manufacturing, they have a global slavery system of slavery without chains. Along comes America, the anointed nation, and takes them down in 34 years by reversing everything they did. So America now becomes the superpower. And then the global elite, we don't realize it, but have controlled us from the very beginning, because we won the Revolutionary War, became an independent nation. But before we even got Washington out of office, we'd gone bankrupt and we were back under a central bank. In 1812, we're not going to sign the charter for the Second Central Bank of America, but the British said, yes, you will. And they declare war on us. And we have the War of 1812 called the Second Revolutionary War, which we win because we're still a nation, but we go back under the charter and we can go on. There's hardly been any substantial period of time where we haven't been under the control of the global financial elite's banking system. So it's going to change. So finally, here's what happens. So we go from power. England goes to power and it goes to America. Then what they said is America's too powerful. So they tried to take us down with the Civil War and they tamped us down a little bit. But now what they did, Carter came in and they said, we need a new kind of economy. This capitalism is too dangerous. We need a super capitalist economy, super capitalist communist economy. We're going to give trade and manufacturing to China, and we're going to cause the decline of America and the rise of China. Why? Because it gives us the innovation of capitalism and the absolute control and dictatorial power of communism. That's the government that they have created intentionally. As you said, we made China. So now what's going to happen? This is where people really have a hard time. They're saying it's time for the final battle. Now the entire financial system has collapsed. But now we must collapse China and we must collapse the United States and create absolute pandemonium, order out of chaos. We win, everybody surrenders. But here's where they screwed up. They went a little at a time, push. We wake up, they stop. They wait a few years, push. They wake up, they stop. First of all, there was a man called Ronald Reagan who stepped in and gave him a hiccup. There was a guy named Kennedy who stepped in and gave him a hiccup. And then there came what I call the disruptor. What was supposed to happen is you were supposed to go through a series of presidents intended to collapses. You were supposed to go through both Bushes. You were supposed to go through Carter. You were supposed to go through Obama. And you were supposed to end up with Hillary, the closer, who was going to collapse us, who was going to release the virus, et cetera, et cetera. But one Donald J. Trump came in and broke that momentum. And so everything we see happening today has got one intention: to stop Donald Trump from coming back, because they know if he comes back, they lose, we win, we get our freedom, and they are no longer in control. We take over control of all of the spheres of influence, and prosperity rolls out to all of mankind. We have a period of peace and prosperity, and we have a period where we have a harvest of souls, and we have an unbelievable Christian revival that spreads around the world. Believe it or not, China has got one of the biggest underground Christian communities in the world. And there's a significant number of people in Iran that are turning to Christ. So basically, God has it all planned. I've never seen him lose a battle ever. They underestimated their enemy. They have made many mistakes. So what a guy like me does is this. Sun Tzu says, study your enemy. Become as knowledgeable of him as you are of yourself. You will therefore anticipate everything he does and beat him before you even begin. And what happened in the Bible? They seen Elisha, the prophet, not physically, but spiritually, into the tent of the enemy, who came back and always told them what the enemy was going to do. So right now, here's what I'm telling you. I know the enemy's playbook completely. I know everything they're doing, and there are others who know it. And because we know their playbook, because they've been stupid enough to do the same things over and over, creating a pattern that lets us anticipate what they're doing, they have lost, because everything that they're going to do and have done is anticipated and prepared for. China loses, the world wins. That's the bottom line.
Well, I'll tell you, you were on a roll, so I didn't want to interrupt you there, as I'm really notorious for doing that sometimes. But I got to tell you, Larry, guys, if you like Larry as much as I like Larry, I love Larry, okay? Larry's going to be on stage in Cape Canaveral. I'm telling you, the most important speakers in this biblical time are all descending on Cape Canaveral, and Larry's going to be on stage. Can you imagine Larry? And some of you guys know who Rob Cunningham is. Can you imagine Larry and Rob Cunningham and potentially someone else on that stage doing an exchange for an hour? Oh my God, we're about to capture lightning in a bottle. That's a fact. Okay. And it's all going to happen at the Quantum Summit 1776.com. We do need about $15,000 worth of donations. There's a few speakers. We have to fly down and put them up in hotel rooms, transportation, meals, etc. And we depend on you folks out there to really dig into your pockets and hit the donate button. Look, at the end of the day, you have no idea what it takes as far as monetarily speaking here to put up one of these events. We're out of pocket by quite a lot right now, okay? And we're hopefully, if the event gets big enough, that's when the big announcement comes, and it's all up to you guys. If you guys buy the tickets fast, okay, which I hope that it speeds up here in the next couple of days, we're going to make a huge announcement, and I almost want to say it, but I don't want to say it. Okay, if it makes sense, but he knows what it's about. But Larry, you're coming down for the event. I understand you're going to be speaking on stage, at least by yourself, and then I'm going to put you with a panel. I got to see who I can match up with, but definitely Rob Cunningham is definitely a match. So I got the daunting task of figuring out the psychology of who would go good with who, and I think you're definitely a match with Rob. So I'm excited. What else do you want to say to the people, the importance of them coming down? Because there's going to be a lot of people. We know that there's going to be a lot of cabooses that have to be put back on the tracks. And everybody that's coming down has potentially a solution to how to, go forward in this crazy planet that we have allowed to be created. So what could you tell to the people the importance of them coming down to watching this event in the flesh? Obviously, we also have the virtual tickets going up for sale here shortly, probably within a day or two, that you could watch worldwide. And we do expect a larger crowd there, especially if the XRP and the reevaluation is some kind of an announcement. I know there's a lot of great announcements coming out of Zimbabwe right now, which is one of the wealthiest nations when it comes to resources and minerals in the ground than any nation on earth. And they, with the right leadership, that nation is poised to become a powerhouse. Okay, because they have more gold, more silver, more rubies, more diamonds, more anything in the ground than any other nation on earth. But we have systematically went in there and suppressed all of Africa, the United States of America, the New World Order, and it's about to get unsuppressed. We're living the most exciting times of our lives. There's no question about it.
All right, I'm going to comment on the very last thing you said, because I want to save the stuff about your event till last.
Sure.
So basically, I want you to understand how the global leader controlled the world. It all started when a biblical event happened. Basically, there was an attack by the Spanish fleet on England because King George III had left the Catholic Church, and that's not allowed. You can't do that. So King Philip came over with an armada, and he was going to basically wipe out England. But God said, I have plans for them. They are housing them along with Spain, are housing my remnant nation that I'm going to use to send to America to fulfill my covenant. So guess what happened? I just want you to see, it's all laid out forever. God knows the end before the beginning. So what happens is Mighty Armada shows up. England has a few little ships. They take their little frigates and they put a cannon or two on them, and that's it. They're going to get the holy crap beat out of them. And the Spanish admiral says they got one advantage. Their little ships are faster than ours. They're kind of hard to hit. Let's cut our anchors off and we'll annihilate them and go home. No sooner did they do that than a hurricane broke loose and the Spanish fleet was sunk, and what Britain became the world superpower. Now, why was that important? Because they had broken away from the Catholic Church. Now, that's a long story, and created Protestantism. And guess what happened? The Bible had managed to get out of slavery and be printed in England, the King James Bible. So when they came over here, that would have never happened in Spain. If Spain had remained the power, that we would have not had the Industrial Revolution, we would not have scientific breakthroughs, we would not be the world that we are today. So England, the new Protestant, somewhat free religion, had to be what birthed America. So from the very foundation, kind of already laid the groundwork for the battle that we're going to win now. Now, as to why you want to go down to this convention. Well, because I know the exact date the financial collapse is going to happen. No, I don't. No, but God told me that if you study and you were prepared, you'll know the seasons. You can watch the seasons. So I'm going to tell you that I believe we are right on the brink of everything breaking loose. China is imploding faster than you can imagine. The dollar is imploding. BRICS is killing the dollar, and it's all planned. And that is all to do what? To collapse the financial system. But it's going to be different than what happened in the past. All of the financial systems brought the market down to a certain point, and then the bad guys were able to buy resources for 10 cents on the dollar and got even wealthier. Because of COVID, they overreached. And now what happened is every nation in the world is literally maxed out on credit. So what's going to happen? Entire governments all around the world are going to completely financially collapse. Blue chip companies around the world are going to financially collapse. They lose their money. What does that mean they've lost? Their power. Their greatest weakness, strength is always their greatest weakness. They lose their money, and an avalanche of whistleblowers come out because they no longer can blackmail people. They can't pay these CEOs and the politicians millions of dollars to orchestrate the deals that they want. So the truth, God told me when he gave me my assignment, you will come out at the last minute. I will hold you to the end, and then I will give you the gauntlet. And what it is that the truth will be revealed, just like we're doing here, and the truth will set the people free, and we'll stand up. And so we're going to be seeing that general time frame is going to be the period when they're going to be putting the press on on Israel, the press on the United States, trying to create that order out of chaos that they want, and it collapsed the entire system. It's all going to backfire. And guess what my next book is? It's ready to go out in about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to park it on Amazon. The first book is called Liberty Crusade, The Fight to Save the Free World. It's the foundation for understanding everything that I've been talking about today. It's available on Amazon. Now, God said, the second book, I want you to keep until the collapse comes. So he told me when basically to put it out there. So what I'm saying to you is God's given me the permission to get ready to release that book. And it's going to be about the plan to restore everything, bring back the order after the collapse. And what did Mel say? That the people down there on that platform are going to be bringing you solutions to what is happening when the chains are cut, we're going to need to figure out how we restore order. And you're going to get more knowledge and information about how America and the world is going to be restored there than I think any place else on this planet right now. That's why you want to come. It's going to be a pinnacle time, and you're going to learn things that could very, very well position you to take advantage of what's coming down in ways that you can't even imagine.
Now, you saw the picture I took when I was in my favorite beach in Playa Langosta. I sent it to you of me taking a picture as we go through this new world order, this disruption of major proportion. You know, a year and a half ago, I'm at my favorite beach, a year, maybe almost 2 years ago, as I'm starting my podcast. And I realized that my wife was right and XRP was the one. And I take a picture innocently of what I thought was an XRP logo in the sky and with the face of God. Do you know that that face of God happens? If you were to go to Google and punch in the Shroud of God and you put up that picture next to the Shroud of God, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's identical, the Shroud of God, that you could do a search on Google. Why in the world would God appear himself to a guy that is an atheist, no longer believed at that point? I was hardcore atheist. Why do you think that is? I mean, out of all people in the world, me, right? That picture has been passed around a million times all over the internet. There's no denying. And XRP, as this collapse is coming, is at front and center. The ISO tokens, the Basel compliant tokens, banks collapsing left and right. There's got to be a few financial institutions that survive out of this whole entire chaos. Who do you think those banks are? And do you think we're going to have an election as we close out?
Are you asking me a question?
Yes.
I don't think we're going to have an election. I think that's the last thing they want. I think there are provisions made for Trump to come back other than through an election. The first provision was in Franklin Delano Roosevelt when we were coming out of the Great Depression into World War II. It was deemed to be too dangerous to have a change of administration. And so they granted him the right to be president for a third term. And as I understand it, when Trump left, he had an executive order that was passed that was had contained a national emergency, and that means we're in a state of war, just like back in 1933. And under a state of war, there is a provision for him to come back. And I happen to be, being the Christian that I am, believe in prophecy very substantially. Kim Clement in 2007, before anybody had any idea who Trump, whether he would ever run for office, said Donald Trump would be president for 2 terms. But there would be a period, a void in between. And what I believe we're looking at is he is going to be able to come back as the commander in chief, according to what we laid down or what the precedent that was set under FDR, and according to what we have, if we this is too large a conversation to get into, if we understand 1871, when the corporation took over, which is totally illegal, and we understand the manual of war, which is basically a military constitution that provides 2 things. It provides the ability for Trump to come back as commander in chief without an election, and it also provides for the transfer of wealth that you've been talking about. So I believe that everything has been orchestrated, that the only nation in the world that can bring the world back is America. And Trump told us we would have free energy. He told us we'd have a free we'd have free energy. We'd have access to new technologies. We'd have access to oil, and America would be greater than ever. And America would lead the world back into peace and prosperity. So if you want to know the details of that, I think they'll be unraveling down at this meeting, because I think once everything is falling apart, then all the truth is going to come rolling out. And I think you're going to be absolutely blessed if you come to this event.
Yeah, we're about to make history in Cape Canaveral. There's no question about it. And Trump did say we will get in the race for flying cars. We got to beat China and we got to beat Russia. And that's going to happen too. Thank you for coming. I'm going to hold you over, guys. If you want to see Larry Ballard in the flesh, in person, in Cape Canaveral. Quantum Summit 1776.com. Tickets are on sale right now. And we're going to make an announcement, I think, probably in about 10 days, 12 days for sure. For all you people that are going down to Vegas, I'll see you in Vegas. Amber and I are getting ready to get our bags packed and fly over to that event. That's going to be amazing, as we're going to probably spend some time with, what's his name, Brad Garlinghouse and Bradley, what's his name? I can't think of the name of his channel right now off the top of my head, but Digital Perspectives. There you go. Digital Perspectives. Brad Kimes and yours truly, digital asset investor as well, which is it's going to be biblical. I mean, I can't wait to hang out with these people again. There's a lot of new people coming this time that I haven't got to meet the first time, the last convention that will be there this time. It's going to be an epic event. I understand the tickets are already all sold out. I'm not sure exactly, but if you guys want to go to that, I think it's xrplasvegas.com. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mel.
Hello, folks. My name is Mel Carmine, and we are right in the middle of a tectonic shift, the biggest wealth transfer that is going to hit this entire planet like a tsunami on steroids. This will never happen again, at least not in our lifetime. Many of you still have the opportunity to get in right now. Joining our Telegram group is perhaps the smartest thing you'll ever do, and it won't cost you a single dime. We have tens of thousands of patriots waiting for you, and they'll take you by the hand to teach you the ropes so that you don't get slaughtered. Not the global reset. This is not the global reset, but rather the quantum financial system reset, the one that's attached to Nasara Jasara. It's coming at us at 800 miles an hour. The question is, are you ready? Are you in position to receive wealth beyond your wildest dreams? There are 6 to 8 tokens that are going to completely and entirely dominate this landscape. And no, it's not Bitcoin or Ethereum. Join our Telegram group today, and don't forget to visit the Quantum Financial Systems Manual at QFS 1776.com